You want to get started in the Abyss, but you don't know what to fly and how to progress from T0 up to T6. In this video we will go through how you progress from the beginning in T0 up to T6. We will also look at what skills you need and when you can move up to the next tier. First we look at solo abyssal ships, and then we look at triple frigate comms that you can either multibox or fly with friends. And this video focuses on missile and drone based ships. This graph shows the progression path for missile and drone ships. The upper part are drone ships and the lower part are missile ships. You start with a Kestrel and then you can either take the Dark Sacrilege Cerberus for missile ships, or then Worm, Gila, and after that Ishtar or Gamma Gila if you want to fly drone ships. If you are new to the Abyss and to EVE Online as well, then an easy ship to start is the Kestrel. This fit is very cheap and easy to use by new players and alpha clones after having done the tutorials and the career agent missions. However, you need 90 DPS minimum to survive the Abyss. And with this Kestrel you can make around 10 to 50 million ISK per hour, which is very decent for very new players fresh from the tutorial. And here you can see the fitting of this Kestrel. It's basically meta for a rocket launcher with some basic tank and DPS modules. And to skill into that it only takes like a day or two, so that means if you have done career agent mission and tutorial you should be able to fly this. And you do T0 darks with this fit. Now we discuss the drone ship path. The next step from the Kestrel is the Worm. It is also quite easy to use and also alpha clone friendly. And with this Worm you can do T1 gammas. The Worm is drone and light missile based, meaning that you kite most of the rooms. To make use of it you want to have the magic 14 skills as high as possible, preferably even at level 5. And also good drone skills and missile skills as well, so that you get around 250 DPS. And with the magic 14 those are skills like shield management, power grid management, CPU management and so on. Those are very important skills that you want to maximize as early as possible, as they enable you to easier fit your ships and also get more cap and shield HP, armor HP and so on. So get those to level 5 as early as possible in your EVE career. And here you can see the Worm. It's basically just a passive shield tanked Worm with a shield extender and field purge that increase shield HP per second. You take Ingame Nova and Inferno light missiles. Nova are mostly your basic ammo, and Inferno you use them against the Altes cruisers. They do not have any resistance, and the Worm only gets bonus to thermal and kinetic missiles and not explosive. And you take warriors in Gamma. If you are alpha then you cannot use Tech 2 warriors, in that case use Republic fleet warriors. When you get more comfortable with managing your drones and your skills improve, both your skills and as well as your piloting skills in the Abyss, then you can start thinking about upgrading to the Gila. And the Gila is most likely the most commonly used ship in the Abyss. A cheap and easy to use Gila, even for alphas, is the Povertila. And there are 3 different Povertila fits. The classic Povertila for exotic and electricals, the passive fit for Gamma, and the Firestorm Povertila. For alphas and newer players, I recommend the classic Povertila and to do T3 electricals. Electricals improve your cap recharge rate, and that means that you don't have to worry too much about node pressure. And this means that electrical is also the easiest weather to learn. For the classic Povertila you also swap drones depending on the weather you do. In electricals you take infiltrators and in exotic vespers. When you feel more comfortable, then you can do T4. But for T4 you want Omega clone state as well as very good drone and missile skills. And with the classic and passive Povertila you can make around 100 million ISK per hour, and with the Firestorm Povertila you can make around 150 million ISK per hour, which is due to the cheaper filaments for Firestorm. Here you see the fit for the classic Povertila, and this Gila can do up to T4 electrical and exotics. But as I said earlier, don't go straight into T4 if you're new. Start in T3 electricals and get used to flying the ship and the spawns first before you do T4. And you also adjust the drones depending on the weather, as said earlier. An important thing to mention is for alpha clones. If you are alpha, then you cannot use a Tech 2 shield boost amplifier. In that case, use either a faction or a Meta 4. And if you're alpha, then you probably also don't have max cap skills. In that case, stick to T3 electricals. Here you see the passive Povertila that you can use to do up to T4 gammas. And again, if you're new, do T3 first and get used to the spawns and flying the ship first. Don't go straight into T4. As you see, this Gila is fully passive fit with 4 shield extenders and field extender rigs that gives you a very high amount of EHP. And you should be able to kill all the rats before they get through your tank. You also have to pay a little bit attention to nudes, as your multi-spectrum partner requires cap to run. And for drones you also take augmented vespers that you can use against the F-Yaltes crews that do not have any resistance, and so they do more damage to them than the Valkyries, even though Gamma has a penalty to explosive resistance. And missiles you bring Nova and Inferno or Scourge against the F-Yaltes cruisers. And this is the Firestorm Povertila. It looks very similar to the classic Povertila, but it only has one Piffen B-type medium shield booster, but also thermal shield hardener, as Firestorms give a penalty to thermal damage. And thermal is probably one of the most commonly damage type that NPCs deal in Firestorm, especially tricks and also Sancho, sleepers and so on. So you want to increase the thermal resistance as much as possible. A drawback of this fit is that it isn't really usable by alpha clones, as in Firestorm you want to have access to augmented vespers as well as Tech 2 hammerheads to clear them as efficient as possible. Also the Firestorm Gila is harder to use because in Firestorm everything has more EHP and takes a little bit longer to kill, but in exchange you make significantly more ISK per hour. While in Gamma and Exotic you are looking at like 100 million ISK per hour, in Firestorms, T4 Firestorms you can make up to around 150 million ISK per hour. And also the Firestorm Povertila is a little bit more expensive than the other two Povertilas. So now you have been doing T4 for some time, improved your skills, piloting skills and your drone, missile and other skills. And now you maybe start thinking about your next step going up to T5 or even T6. And for drone ships there are two options that you can use. One is the T6 Gamma Gila or the T6 Gamma Ishtar. both need nearly perfect skills if you want to do T6, but you can do T5 if a little bit less skills. First we look at the T6 Gamma Gila. The T6 Gamma Gila is basically an upgrade to the passive Povertila for Gamma, with the only difference that you use Percher rigs and the fit is also more blinked. And in T6 you also use mutated drones. And this is the fit for the T6 Gamma Gila. It looks very similar to the passive Povertila, but the only difference is that you use Percher rigs instead of field extenders, and the AB multispectrum and the drone damage modules are also more blinked. You also have to use Nirvana implants that increase your shield HP, as well as a shield management and shield operation implant to improve your tank, as the tank is fully passive. For drones, you use Valkyries in Gammas, but if you do T6, then you also want to use mutated drones. And for mutating drones, mutate faction drones and not Tech 2. And what also helps in T6 are Abyssal rolled shield extenders, so that you get in the Abyss at around 40 to 42,000 shield HP after the Gamma weather effect. A commonly asked question is, when can you move up to the higher tier? Like you have been doing T4s for some times, you feel comfortable, but when is a good time to start doing T5s? Or if you are doing T5s, when is a good time to start doing T6? What I would do if you take one of those T6 fits is to first start in T3, maybe T4 first, and do like 50 of them, which is basically to get used to the ship and the mechanics around it and how to fly it. These are more to practice your piloting and get a feel for everything, for the NPCs, ship fitting, drones and so on. After you have done like 50 T3s, then you can go up to T4. And if you feel comfortable in T4, go to T5 and then same for T6. It is actually hard to tell when you feel comfortable to move up. But I would say if you can do T4 in around 10 to 12 minutes and you rarely to never have to overheat anything, be it your damage or your tank, then you can move up to T5. And for T6, if you can do T5 in around 13 to 40 minutes and rarely have to heat anything, then you can start doing T6. This is how I would progress, but when you feel comfortable is individual for every player. So you have to decide yourself when you feel comfortable moving up. But what I would not do is just take a T6 fit and go straight into T6 without starting in lower tiers, because that is a common reason why people die in the Abyss, because they go straight into T6 because they have seen a fit or a tutorial, then they die. So don't do that, start in lower tiers, get used to it and slowly progress your way up to T6. Something that you should also look at are the skills that you need when you want to do T5 and T6. In T6 you want to have every missile, drone, as well as Magic 14 and tanking skills at level 5. And this includes specialization skills like mutated drone specialization, Minmatar drone specialization and so on. You want to have them all at level 5, even though the specialization skills only give like 2% bonus per level. In T6 this can make a difference in some room. But in T5 you want to have all the support skills at level 5, like you want to have like drone interfacing at level 5, like drone durability, drone navigation and all the other drone skills. But having the specialization skills only at level 4 is fine in T5. But for T6 there is not only the Gila that you can use, there's also an Ishtar that you can use. But this fit is significantly more expensive and also a little bit harder to fly, but you have a bit more DPS. And this is the fit of the T6 Gamma Ishtar. It's basically small artilleries with Gecko, Republic, Valkyries and Warriors, and those are all DPS with an ADC and a bit of application, and use a GIST X-Type X-Lord shield booster, and you have to use an Abyssal cap battery because otherwise nude pressure in some room might be too hard. And you also use high-grade crystal implants and capacitor management to improve your tank and your cap a little bit. It's an alternative to the Gila, does more DPS, but is a bit harder to fly and also more expensive. Now let's also talk about the lower path, the missile-based ships. They all need Omega very early, like the Hawk needs Omega, while for the drone ships you could stay Alpha up to the Povertila. The next upgrade if you want to go missile based ships is the Hawk for T1 Exotics. And here is the fit for the Rocket Hawk. You can do T1 Exotics and Darks as well, but Exotics are easier because the Hawk gets a bonus to kinetic missile damage and Exotic have a penalty to kinetic resistance. It's basically rocket fit with damage modus, AB, shield booster, hardener and battery. And you want to have the magic 14 skills at level 5. Those are skills like cap management, power grid management and so on. And also good missile skills are required, especially missile bombardment and missile projection, because there are some spawns where you want to use javelin and kite at the edge of javelin range. An example will be the drone battle cruiser or the devoted knight, because if you get too close to them then they will do a lot of damage and then you might even die to them. So you want to have those skills at level 5 preferably. After you got some experience with the Hawk, improved your missile and piloting skills, then you can consider upgrading to a Sacrilege for T4 Darks. In T4 Darks you can make around 140 million ISK per hour, but for that you want to have nearly perfect missile skills. A note must be made when you want to progress in Darks. In Darks it is hard to start in T3 because there are different range penalties. T3 Darks give minus 30 or minus 50%, and T4 and high give either minus 50 or minus 70%. This means that it isn't very easy to start in T3 when you want to progress in Darks. This means that if you want to start with the Sacrilege, then you basically have to start in T4, because in T4 the smart bomb it has won't be of any use, and as the rats orbit further out they hit you easier. So this means that you basically must start in T4 with the Sacrilege or any other dark ship. And this is the fitting for the T4 Dark Sacrilege. It's a heavy assault missile fit with a Shadow Serpentis medium plasma smart bomb that helps with small stuff like drone frigates, damavics and so on. These allow you to save like 1 to 2 volleys per frigate in most room. It's dual web fit with a battery and allows a DPS, dual web and multi-spectrum. And for drones, you use hammerheads and vespers. Hammerheads you use against battleships and vespers in most auto rooms where they can help you to do damage. When you got some experience, you can consider going even higher. For T6, a good ship is the Cerberus. It does a lot of damage and also has good range and tank. But the drawback is that it has some application issues in some rooms, especially against Damavix and Ephialtes. You can also upgrade the Sacrilege to do T5. For that you can add basically mid-grade Asclepians and pre-roll a standard Exile booster and maybe Abyssal roll the cap battery, and then you should be able to do T5s with that Sacrilege. And this is the fit for the T6 Exotic Cerberus. It's again heavy assault missile fit with shield, tank and a web for application in some rooms. Implant wise it uses crystal implants as well as missile implants for more damage and application. Pyrolancer booster. The Cerberus has, as mentioned, application issue in some room, so that's why you also want to use a crash booster and the web to help it with application. But rooms with a lot of bigger stuff like 5 or 6 Wetmax rooms, Deep Watcher, Karen with Skillers, the Cerberus clears those rooms very quickly, but actually takes some time in Damavik and Ephialtes rooms if there are a lot of guidance disruptors. You also have to learn how to use the environment efficiently, like if there is a blue cloud in a Damavik room, then you obviously want to get inside it to help with application. But you also want to be careful with them because Karen will do a lot of damage if you get into a blue cloud. This Cerberus could theoretically also do T6 Darks, but there you want to use the Hydra implants and not the crystals, because their tank is less an issue, but application is even more an issue because the rats are faster and you also do not have the kinetic resistance penalty, which means that you do also significantly less damage. But to stay on the safe side, I would stick with it in exotics. And again, don't go straight into T6, start in like T3 and T4 and then move your way up until you feel comfortable in T6. Now let's also look at frigate setups for high tiers. In a single frigate you can do T1, maybe T2 with very good skills and a little bit more blinked fit. But if you want to do T3 or higher, then you want to either multibox 3 frigates or run with some friends. And there are also some setups that you can use. Like at the beginning, you can use 3 cheap throwaway hawks that each are like 50 million, so the whole setup is around 150 million, which you basically can use to learn multiboxing and get used to it. And the drawback in Dark is, as mentioned earlier, that you cannot really start in lower tiers like T3 or below. You basically have to start in T4 and above, because in lower tiers those hawks won't really work because their tank is very low and it relies on the range penalty. For higher tiers you can either upgrade those hawks. Lokival the Noob has a triple hawk setup for T6 Darks, or you can also use a hawk together with a Skybreaker and a Kirin, and that can clear T5 and T6 very quickly, especially in rooms where there are a lot of smaller stuff like drones or Ephialtes, but it actually can time out against the Overmind. An alternative would be 2 Hulks and Kirin for T5 and T6 exotics. Those are very good to use, but the exotic has the drawback that the filament prices are a little bit higher and that T6 exotics don't drop much more loot than T5. So in exotic basically at T5 it caps out mostly when it comes to the red loot. But in T6 you can of course still get those capital mutaplasmid, and maybe there's a higher chance for those glorified mutaplasmid blueprints that can be worth several 100 million ISK. And with the exotic frigates you can of course start in T1 just to learn how to multibox or coordinate with your friends, and then slowly progress your way up until T6. While with the dark frigates you basically cannot really do good in T3 and below because they rely on the range penalty. And this is how you progress with drone and missile based ships, starting in T0 Abyss and then moving all the way up to T6. If you liked the video, remember to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. Also join my Discord and the Abyssal Lurker community, link in the description. And in the Abyssal Lurkers Discord there are a lot of more helpful resources like skill plans, more fittings that you can use. Like the fittings that I discussed in this video aren't all the possible fittings, there are way more different fits that you can use. And if you buy stuff from Marquee Dragon or the official EVE store, remember to use the code Gustav for a 3% discount on Marquee Dragon and to support the channel. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.